Halo Mas Walik, how are you?
Halo. Lumayan, memaksaku mandi pagi.
Sama, alias meruput. Ya orang meruput banget.
Ini teman-teman yang lain sudah ada?
Mas Hakim dan Bung Sidik belum hadir kayaknya.
Tanya aneh.
Anak-anak itu mengalami krisis teman saya ketika di rumah. Good morning, Mr. Ragil and Mr. Fali. Do you hear my voice? Yeah.
Good
Yes.
morning.
Hear my voice?
Clearly.
Clearly. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's Bung Sidik is coming. Good.
Okay. Yep. Everyone's here. Still have 3 minutes. Halo, Bung Sidik. Can you hear me?
Bung Sidik, can you test your speaker?
You need to unmute it.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Should we start now or we wait
No, still
2 minutes
2
more?
minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay, can we start now? Dr. Falik, Dr. Hakim, and Mr. Sidi Karimatia. Seems like there's already quite a lot of people in this room, so maybe we can start now. Okay, good morning, everyone. The panelists, all the participants, and also the attendees. Good morning, selamat pagi. Thank you for attending this parallel session. I am Gregory Stragili Bawanto. I am a researcher at the Department of Sociology, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and I'm going to be moderating this particular panel. Before we proceed, I'd like to first express my gratitude and appreciation to the Center for Southeast Asian Social Studies and all of the organizing partners for conducting and arranging such a wonderful symposium that provides us with tables so we can meet each other, sit together, exchange ideas, and also construct knowledge. I'm very glad to be a small part of this occasion. Thank you very much. Now, we are sitting around one of those tables where we are going to be talking about new map and opportunities of social sciences in the digital era. As we have witnessed and experienced, the world has gone into rapid change and transformation with the coming of digital industry and of course the virus that successfully sneak into our room and interfere in our everyday life. However, before this particular virus created the state of global emergency, we have been faced with the digital transformation that allow us to enjoy the advent of technological advancement through which we can get more connected, to be more creative and also innovative. Although some problems and challenges also emerge out of it and remains of relevance to be discussed. Problems and challenges such as the precariousness within job market, individuation of society, or the detachment, the social being from social environment, and also the problem of representation of the digital world, where we are directed into a piece of half depicted reality through our 11-inch screen. Hoax and misinformation then become in itself an example of those half-depicted realities and also an indispensable part of the digital world. Those depictions are even becoming more observable and conspicuous in this time of crisis caused by COVID-19 virus, where almost half of the middle and upper class life have been forced to move into the so-called online virtual digital world. Even lower class without the proper infrastructure have also been pushed to follow such a path. These sudden changes are apparent and we are encouraged to adapt and attune to it. So is social science as its subject of inquiry is undergoing, which is us, undergoing a great change. And in response to this transformation and this entanglement of global crisis and digital world, this panel offers critical frameworks to reflect on the recent development regarding the changing and opportunities of social science to contribute in analyzing as well as anticipating risks and opportunity of our contemporary life and of future world. Some of the central topics covered in this session include, but not limited to, job in the digital era, social connection, and also network of information. In discussing those topics, of course, I will not be alone. We have three panelists here this morning. They are based at the same department, which is Department of Sociology, Universitas Gadjah Mada, as researchers and lecturers. But even so, these three panelists have a different concern and interest regarding their academics and research activities. The first presenter is Mr. Sidik Harimatia. He has been directing his interest towards network analysis and also knowledge formation within the virtual realm. Maybe I should first greet Mr. Sidik. Mr. Sidik Harimatia, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ragil, I can hear you.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear from you, and I believe that you are ready for this morning presentation, and thanks for preparing that. The second panelist is Dr. Falikul Isbah. He has been channeling his intellectual endeavor into sociology of work and another topic of a kind. Hello, Dr. Falikul Isbah. Is he around? Oh, he's gone. Mas Falik is not in the room. Okay, while we're waiting, maybe I should just continue, and while he maybe has some troubleshoot, and yeah, maybe I should continue, and I will check on later. And the third is Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan. He is a secretary department at Department of Sociology. His research has been focused into the dynamic of Islam and democracy and global world. And recently, he has been gravitated into the question of solidarity within digital world. Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan, how are you?
Fine, good. Mr. Ragil, yes.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hakim, for preparing this morning to present and deliver your ideas. And we are so ready to hear it from you.
Yes, sure. So do
Okay.
I.
Yep. Okay. They're all panelists, and hopefully Dr. Falik will get back to us soon. Before we proceed into the discussion, let me just mention some of the rules for this morning session. First, every presenter is given 20 minutes of time to deliver their ideas. I will provide a 5-minute cue before time's up. I will directly send the message into their private chat room, so not everyone can see it. And second, 3 panelists will present consecutively, followed by 30 minutes of Q&A session. After the last presenter finish his talk. So the Q&A session will be at the end of the discussions. And here's the order. I will read the order of the presentation. First, Mr. Siddiq will present their ideas, followed by Dr. Falikul Isbah, and Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan will come after. That's the second point I should mention about. And the third, although Q&A is arranged to be at the end of the 3 presentations, participants and attendees can pose questions on the available chat room anytime during presentation. So you can just post question while listening to the presentations. And while doing so, please write your name and also name of the speakers to whom the question is addressed. I hope I have made it clear for everyone about these rules. And that's all I have so far, actually. And without further ado, we can buckle up and we can direct our attention to Mr. Siddiq, who is going to be presenting his paper titled Misinformation Order, an examination of COVID-19 infodemic in Indonesia. So, Mr. Siddiq, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ragil. Hi, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank to the symposium committee, the attendee or participants, also the moderator, and also my colleagues, Mr. Hakim and Mr. Falik. Thank you for the opportunity for me to present my paper. The title is Misinformation Order, the case in Indonesia. So I would like to present the contemporary case about the COVID misinformation and what it is all about in the context of Indonesia. Ragil, could you share my PowerPoint or I share myself?
Sorry, maybe you can share yourself because I'm not the host. So
okay, I'll try.
Yes.
Here. Okay, we have 15 minutes here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about infodemic. I think it's unfamiliar term from it's recently popular terms, a neologism of information and pandemic or epidemic. So we call it infodemic, and it's everywhere in times of COVID, including in Indonesia. But I'll try to focus in the case of Indonesia. So what it is about, what are the content, when people talk about misinformation about COVID, what it is all about. So I'd like to map out the theme of infodemic spread in the case of Indonesia. So let's start from this picture. I think some of you have been familiar, you know, misinformation in Indonesia has come into being long before the first case reported officially by the government. So in the local case in Yogyakarta, for example, in the mid of March, when the government officially announced the first case, a couple of hours later, it is followed by 100 misinformation or hoax or fake news about COVID that shared on social media, and it becomes viral. One of them is this kind of poster, as you see, and there is a content here and a picture of the King of Yogyakarta when he took a power, as if he recommend to people to cook a 7 color of vegetables to prevent the disease. So short about my background. So as you may have known, that hoax or fake news related to COVID is everywhere, and it infected a lot of people across the globe, including here. And so international health authorities such as WHO declare that now we are facing the double diseases. So hoax become a second disease that we are should combat. And Indonesia is one of the many countries with so many transmission and circulation of COVID hoax on social media. There are many media report about that. And this topic becomes popular. There are many studies about it. It's been conducted in specific countries. For example, Hua and Seoul did research about COVID misinformation in China, for example, and Mafrani in the region of Europe, and colleges, Rovetta and Bagatula, for example, they studied in the case of Italy. And now I try to focus my attention to the case of Indonesia. And this presentation have two objectives. First, I would like to examine how infodemic in Indonesia finds its order and what are the major issues emerged from this second disease. So what is it all about? And the second objective is focusing of the digital contents, particularly the contents of COVID misinformation that are accessible and available on the internet. And we position those contents as opportunity for social science research to map out or to analyze and to conduct social research remotely. So misinformation, I think you have familiar with this word, with hoax or with fake news or disinformation order. It's about false information. It's about invalid information. So the COVID misinformations that I define here is information related to the disease that are misleading or scientifically are not proven. There are many studies about the concept of misinformation from Bono Group, for example. He defines misinformation as information disorder that escalated very quickly in the digital age. And Bennett and Livingstone even define misinformation as disinformation order, which is very dangerous for our democracy. And a contemporary global initiative, the first draft, for example, define misinformation into 7 types. We're going to see which types that are very popular, produced, and circulated in the case of Indonesia. So here my method. So I'm using the combination of social network analysis and qualitative analysis. Social networks is a method that focuses on investigating the actor and its relations. There are many variants in social network analysis or SNA. One of them is semantic analysis. By semantic, I mean the focus of network is on the linguist or the word. So by studying digital content, I focus on the word and its connection to other words that underpin the content of misinformation. I employ the SNA for mapping the themes of misinformation, and then I mix it with a qualitative analysis to interpret the content. Where the data come from? So my data source is from I think one of the largest site fact checker in Indonesia, turnbackhoax.id, initiated by anti-hoax CSO in Indonesia, and they regularly posted and debunk a fake news that are suggested by their community. So, but I only included data of misinformation that are related to COVID. So I'm using the keyword COVID-19 or virus corona to make sure that the data I include in the analysis only data about COVID misinformation. And the time period, I filter from January to March because these 3 months is very crucial fast for Indonesia. As we know, the first 2 cases were announced in 2nd of March, and many international media doesn't believe that. You know, they believe that long before, maybe January or February, the virus itself has been spreading in the country. And I'm using a software to visualize and to analyze. The software is not Excel, SNA software. And from this data filtering and cleaning process, I generate 207 hooks or 7 content of misinformation that are spreading in the context of Indonesia. So, and the process of analysis, there are 4 steps here. First, I identify the major themes. So the themes of misinformation in Indonesia by measuring degree centrality. It means I identify how many words that are connected to other words. So degree centrality means the most popular themes, they have the most connection with other words. And then the second step, I identify the largest component that are linked to major components. So I try to know these themes is about what. And the third step is tracing the largest component that indirectly links to the major theme. So I want to know in what context this hoax is about. And the last one, I interpret the finding to know the possible or the probable implication of this infodemic for government handling in health communications in times of pandemic in Indonesia. And the result is there are 26 themes that I identified as COVID misinformation. And there are 4 major themes that I identified. Since I only interested in major themes, so I only focus on these 4 topic or themes. So first, hoax about intervention. It's the most popular, the most widely shared and circulated online. And the hoax about infection, it's about who got infected. And the implication hoax is about the situation or the events happening because of the spread of COVID. And hoax about prevention, it relates to a question of how to prevent COVID. It's very popular. As you see on my first slide, it's hoax about prevention. There are 2 things that I'm going to show you here, the map of misinformation and the legend on the right side. And I also coded with using a circle and the label. I'm gonna explain you very quickly. So I don't know whether you can read the word or not. I try to explain carefully. First, let's look at the red circle here. So there are 5 types of misinformation that are widely shared or consumed in the case of Indonesia. They are fabricated content and misleading, but all of them are misinformation. And here the circles is about themes. So I coded with G1, G2, G3, G4. So these themes or topic of misinformation, they are connected to what, and this prevention, they are connected to what. I'm going to explain to you one by one very quickly. There are 4 themes that I'm interested. So let's start from the G1, the intervention hoax. Here, so the intervention hoax is typically about, the policies set up by people in power or institutions in response to COVID-19 in Indonesia. There are many policies here, as you see, that are, for example, highway closed, tourism destination, repatriation, and so on. There are many. These are the content about intervention hoax, and I try to know more about this by looking at the connection of this component to the other components. So these larger components mostly directly connected to these components, and we find the names of mostly politicians here, mostly politicians or government institution here that are directly linked to these policies, meaning that these type of misinformations are targeted people whose name mentioned here. So it's of course it's dangerous for the reputation of people who's mentioned here, the reputation of this politician or this institution, for example. So the implication of this hoax, it can um, decline the trust or people trust to the institution or the government. And the second type here, let's go to the right corner, the infection hoax. If you look at this graph, the infection hoax directly connected to the names of famous people. There are world leaders here. I think these names are mostly are famous people, world leaders, maybe politician or religious leaders, or actor or actress here. Um, so this hoax, the content of this hoax typically claiming that that person got infected or that person test positive of coronavirus, and this name directly connected with um, other component at the bottom on the right corner, uh, which mostly about the place, meaning that the content of this hoax typically who got infected and where, which can, I think, increase our fear, or maybe the creator of this hoax wants people to get anxious or scared, or they will think that, oh, those famous people got infected, so this virus is real. Yeah, of course the virus is real, but the degree of anxiety will increase because of these misinformations. And the third themes is about implication hoax, uh, the situations or what is happening because of hoax. There are words that expresses emotional what is it expression here. For example, the panic, tension, riot. So but we find the other word that has something to do with religious or religiosity. For example, that mosque flooding, converting to Islam, Jum'ah prayer, and uh, so this the implication of hooks are typically about you know um, what what has happened in a particular region because of the spread of COVID. I try to know more about this content, and we find the connection of this component to names of places or organization or hospitals, and also the religious aspect here, which tell us that this hoax brings a risk of wider polarizations based on either it can be a social, ethnicity, politics, or religion itself. And the
You have
last
1 minute. Sorry, Siddiq, you have 1 minute.
yeah, and the last one is hoax about prevention. As you see here, there are many things about I don't know, is the benefit of herbs, but all of these are myths, of course. But the interesting thing is this component related to the reputable institution or particular persons, which means that hoax, I think, is not only about how to mislead people, but it also the business of how to convince people. So hoax is part of our digital environment, and the producer of hoax, they sometimes, I don't believe they will only mislead people, but it's about how they convince people. So the discussion from the finding, there are four main topic of focus in Indonesia, which is, I think, very similar with what has been identified by WHO, for example, or some studies in other countries. And this is very dangerous, of course, not only misleading people about the COVID, but disrupting the handling of the pandemic and declining the trust to the government and health authorities. So by semantically examining the network structures, it is obvious that the virus can be seen as an instrument to ignite hate, hostility in people, and distrust to the government. So this is an example of study using a digital content of misinformation, and I think is an opportunity for social researchers, particularly who should work remotely to gather data and to analyze it at home. And this study, I think, can give an example of how the digital media can be opportunity for social science research. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Siddiq, for your thought-provoking presentation and your beautiful map where you show the reality of the network in social media. And I know some points of your presentation, but the most important thing, I think, the four words you're finding that's been widely distributed, spread out in social media, namely intervention, a hoax about intervention, infection, implication, and prevention. Of course, there are a lot of worth nothing points that you've been alluded to, but that's the findings that we might be want to considering in rethinking the state of this digital environment. Thank you, Mr. Siddiq. Next is Dr. Yep. Next is Dr. Faliko Isba. His paper titled Sociology of Work. In the era of digitalized work, what is new? Please, Dr. Faliko Isba, we are ready to hear your presentation. 20 minutes. I will give you reminder through private chat.
Yep.
Please.
Thank you, Bung Rakil. And first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizer of the conference, our colleagues from the Center for Southeast Asian Social Research of Universitas Gadjah Mada. And also thanks to Bung Ragil as the moderator here and all colleagues from Sociology Department who presenting with me at this panel. And also to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from across the world, from across the universities and across the institution and organization for having us, for having our panel this afternoon. Yep. Can you see my slide?
Yes,
all good?
Perfectly. Thank you. All good.
Okay. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to share in this good occasion is my reflection on wide reading and some empirical research on the issue of work in the current digitalized world. So my presentation is titled Sociology of Work in the Era of Digitalized Work. What is new? So in this presentation, I would like to looking for new direction and new opportunities for researchers in the issue of work. Yeah. So central question and outline of this presentation is the question, what are the issues, research opportunities, and potential framework for sociologists amid the changing nature of work in the digitalized world? And in this presentation, I will start with number 1, technological discoveries in the changing human life. And number 2, I'm gonna to mention briefly about the 4th industrial revolution. This is cliche, I think. And number 3 is digital transformation in economic sector and what kind of job and what kind of work it produce. And number 4, as the focus of this paper or of this presentation is, I would like to identify the issues, research opportunities, and potential framework that we can go further. Well, to start with, number 1, this is my glance overview of what the so-called 4th industrial revolution. I think many people, both orally and in writing, has mentioned the word 1st industrial revolution, 2nd industrial revolution, and 3rd industrial revolution. But the underlying what's that? The underlying point from those 4 types of revolution is the invention of technology. Yeah, by inventing new technology, human being get a new opportunity and get get an opportunity to change the way they produce goods, the way they distribute goods, and the way they consume goods. So what we call as industrial revolution is starting from the invention of new technology, and then the technology changing the way we produce goods, and then by new mode of production, we have we have a different way of living in the world. And number 2, I mentioned briefly about the 4th industrial revolution. There is an author wrote a very simple, easy to understand book, Klaus Schwab, that he divided 3 mega trends in the 4th industrial revolution. Number 1 is physical mega trend. Number 2 is digital mega trend, and number 3 is biological mega trend. For us as social scientists, probably the center one, the digital one, or we call them with digital transformation, is more familiar. Yeah, with Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, big data processing, and cloud computing. And in the next slide, I will show you how this digital transformation affect our economic sector. So, digital transformation in economic sector, what has it created? Yeah, based on my reading on several and diverse sources, yeah, from scholarly articles and research report from consulting organization, as well as popular publication in mass media, yeah, I got 5 categories of economic sector, yeah, produced by the digital transformation. Number 1 is web-based microtasks, yeah, the work that produced based on website. Yeah, the example of this is Amazon Mechanical Turk, yeah, and 99 Design. This is just an example. Yeah, in this kind of job, yeah, the workers can reside or can live everywhere, no problem, and they can get the job from the website, and then they can do the job everywhere. Yeah, and the second type is the location-based sharing economy. The example is Gojek and Red-Doors. Yeah, there is sharing labor and sharing infrastructure, but it is restricted in certain area. For example, the Gojek driver in Jogja they have to operate in Jogja only. Yeah, it's restricted in certain area. Also, the sharing economy in accommodation like Red Dots, Oyo, and what Airi. Yeah. And the third type of economic sector is e-commerce, yeah, like Shopee, Traveloka, Ticket.com, and so on. I think all of you are familiar with this. And then number 4 is fintech or financial technology. Yeah, there is Danamas, Amarta, and so on. I will talk later about this. And the last one is creative content and digital marketing. Because not enough space here, I put in the next. This one, creative content and digital marketing. On our left side, I took a screenshot from Baim Wong YouTube website, yeah, YouTube site, yeah. Baim Wong is known as the most successful person in Indonesia to be YouTuber. Yeah, he's how many there? 15.2 million subscribers. With 15.2 million subscribers, he can earn a lot of money from Google AdSense and etc. And on our what's that? Right side, I have an example of digital self-marketing. This girl called named Hilma Anis. Yeah, he wrote a novel and then he sold the novel through her Facebook. Yeah, she sold the novel through Facebook and she earned I think more than 1 million rupiah. So this is very remarkable. She didn't need to deal with what publisher like Gramedia and etc. But she produced everything by herself, and she earned a lot of money successfully. And next, I will share my thoughts on what are the issues, research opportunities, and potential framework regarding the change and development that I just mentioned earlier. For number 1, web-based micro tasks, yeah, we know that it creates new job opportunities, but there is an issue of job loss and job gain. Yeah, new job is occurring, but old job is disappearing. Yeah, and then with the proliferation of web-based micro tasks, we have problem of more people getting freelance job, not permanent job. Yeah, freelance and precariat. Yeah, precariat is precarious and made from the word precarious and proletariat. Yeah, proletariat is working class, and precarious is unstable or not permanent. In Indonesian, probably we what's that? We translate precariat as serabutan. Yeah. For this kind of phenomenon, probably we can use framework like subjective well-being, social security or social protection, and job security. And then the next point is mostly young workers are involved in web-based micro tasks like designer, website developer, and etc. So we need there is an opportunity to think about their career prospect and their life dream. In the past, most of young people in the school dreaming of permanent job and permanent profession, becoming policeman, becoming civil servant, becoming teacher, and etc. Those kind of permanent job. But now, with the proliferation of digital job, probably they are changing of their life dreams. And the next type of job is in the location-based sharing economy. For example, in the sector of accommodation or hotel, they are very supportive to tourism and ignite people's mobility. And yesterday, Professor Aris Ananta coined the the concept of mobile virtual wirawiri. Yeah, I don't know to what extent the trend of virtual wirawiri hand in hand with the the prospect of sharing economy in accommodation sector or hotel like OYO, Red Dots, and etc. And then location-based sharing economy in transportation sector, yeah, we know like Gojek and Grab in Indonesia, it absorbs huge number of labor force. Only for the motorbike ojek, for Gojek and Grab, probably there are more than 1 million people becoming the driver. So, but there is an issue of de-skilling and skill trap of young workers. What I mean by de-skilling and skill trap here is that they do not have a career prospect or career structure. They do not have an opportunity for income mobility. Yeah, for example, in the first year, they earn 3 million rupiah. In the second year, there is an opportunity to earn 4 million rupiah. They do not have such an opportunity. And then no employment relation, but partnership relation. Yeah, this issue happen across the world. Yeah, not only in Indonesia, because the traditional employment relation is the relation between employer and employees. But in this case, the digital platform company create a new relation, the so-called partnership relation, or in Indonesian we call kemitraan. The consequence of that is that the workers, they do not have any labor rights. Yeah, right to minimum wage, right to sick leave, right to social security or pension, and etc. That kind of right that the workers can enjoy in the permanent or employment relation disappear totally. And the next point is technology mediated labor process and control, yeah, through algorithm, yeah, it possibly create new mode of exploitation and alienation, yeah. Probably there is more risk and vulnerability on workers. Yeah, this is a research opportunity that very potential for us. And the next point about e-commerce, yeah, we understand that e-commerce has transformed physical mall to online mall, yeah, and it ignites new entrepreneurs and seller. Yeah, because housewife, for example, can start new business by selling something without renting or without buying the physical shop. Yeah, but they can start by opening an account on Shopee or Tokopedia and etc. They can start business with a very zero capital. But yeah, we see that almost all of the e-commerce platform is owned by the all established conglomerates. Yeah, for example, who own Tokopedia, who own Bibli.com, who own Bukalapak, and etc. So there is, of course, we agree that there is a new opportunity for ordinary people, for lower class people to start business. But the ownership of the online mall is still belong to long established businessmen or conglomerates. So by that way, probably we can expect significant change in terms of economic structure and the structure of ownership of business in our country. And the next point is about fintech or financial technology. First of all, I would like to explain that fintech is divided into 3 models. The first model is payment, yeah, fintech payment like OVO and GoPay. And the second one is fintech crowdfunding and lending, yeah. four types of it. And the third model is capital market, like share, yeah. And the last one is insurtech or insurance, yeah. In Indonesia, there are 127 registered fintech companies in Financial Authority or OJK, yeah, last year. But there are much more illegal ones, yeah. So the proliferation of illegal fintechs, yeah, especially the illegal one, uh, there is an issue of threat to consumer protection as well as personal data protection. For example, if someone own or some loan to illegal fintech, so all of his or her mobile phone contact data is absorbed or copy by the fintech company. So if he or she is unable to pay for probably one or two installment time, the fintech company will send message to all of his or her contact data, yeah, his friends, colleagues, and families, yeah, to what kind of public shaming, yeah, make him shame, and this is very serious issue actually, because according to OJK, yeah, 60% of Indonesians are actually not bankable, yeah, unable to secure loan from bank. So they are the easy target of fintech platform. And then my last note from this sector is that there is a rapid growth in payment fintech. For example, OVO and GoPay, yeah, Dana, and etc. It means that we have very rapid growth in consumption, but there is a slow growth in lending in investment fintech. Yeah, lending and investment means there is a productive sector. So there is unequal growth between the consumption and production sector related to fintech. And then the next point is about creative content. Yeah, it creates new form of capitalism and market structure. For example, now Google Ads, viewers, like and subscriber, product endorsement is something that has a value. Yeah, in the past of in previous capitalism, yeah, these things were not known. Yeah, quality of product, the volume of product, the added value of product, labor surplus, and etc. That's the all keywords in capitalism. But in today's capitalism, viewers, like and subscribers, product endorsement, and influencer. That's new vocabularies for us in studying the capitalism. And then changing capitalism structure in entertainment industry, probably yes, because many people can start becoming popular singer by opening YouTube account, and because his song or his voice quality is good, it attracts a lot of viewers. And I think the recent example is the movie titled Tilik, yeah, produced by a local producer in Jogja, but it got national-wide popularity, although the movie is in Japanese language. Yeah, but if the movie is watched by more than 8,000, not 8,000, 8 million viewers, yeah, it means something in terms of Google Ads. So the producer can earn a lot of money from the viewers, from the Google Ads, I mean. And then, does it influence job or life aspiration of young people? Yeah. For example, with the quote unquote easy opportunity to earn money through social media, through YouTube, does the young people change their career aspiration? Yeah, probably this is a good opportunity or potential research opportunity in social demography. And then the last one is digital self-marketing. Yeah. To what
Dr. Falik, you
extent
have two
does it,
minutes, sorry.
2 minutes? Yeah.
Yep.
To what extent does it provide opportunities for disadvantaged people? Yeah. I shown you the successful story of Hilma Anis with her novel. Yeah. But can it happen to the poor people, to disabled people, to lower class people with limited internet connection? That is an issue of digital divide. And then digital literacy and intelligence become an important new element of human capital. Those we thought, what's that? We thought the degree, bachelor degree, yeah, we thought sarjana certificate can start new startup as long as he has a very good intelligence in computing, in programming, etc., or social media based marketing. And then affecting the position of women entrepreneurs in their gender-based relation within families. Yeah, in the past, in the studies of family, uh, working mother, yeah, who leave the house all the day, yeah, that means something in gender relation. But now the housewife or the mother, without necessarily leaving the house every day, all the day, just staying at home, but can earn money. Does it affect the gender-based relation in the family? That's a new issue, I think. And then conclusion, yeah. Number one, digital transformation in economic sector has created new jobs, new form of employment, new mode of labor process and control, and possibly new structure of supply chain of goods and labor. Therefore, today's sociology of work is and should evolving along this with this change. Number two, there is a wide research opportunity to revisit and contextualize some long-established concepts and theories in the sociology of work and labor studies, such as exploitation, alienation, immaterial labor, emotional labor, as well as labor process and control. Wow. So with this new context, we need to revisit and contextualize this concept. Number three, beyond micro assessment of work, common topic within sociology such as social stratification, precariat class, social mobility, participation, and empowerment are also relevant to examine the social change resulted from the changing nature of work in the era of digitalized job. Thank you very much, Bung Ragil. Time is back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Falekul Isbah. Very interesting presentation and reflection, I suppose, because you try to look at some of this new field of work that offer job for the young generation, but also for the older generation. There are some points that you trying to dig into. First, the historical overview of the technological development, like you start with these settings, and thanks for the information on these three types, not types, characters of for the industrial revolution: the physical, digital, and biological. And finally, your quote unquote finding on these five category that digital transformation brought about economic sector: web-based micro tasks, location-based sharing economy, e-commerce, fintech, creative content, and digital marketing. Thank you so much, Dr. Falik. And before we move to Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan, I would like to remind the participants that the participant can pose question at any time, because I haven't seen any question in the group chat. So maybe participant, colleague, friends, students, and people who join this room can start to write something and maybe express ideas or ask questions. Okay, and the last one is Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan. He is going to invite us to theoretically reflect on the recent phenomenon of virtual solidarity. Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan, are you still there?
Yes, sure. Mr. Ragil,
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan, time is yours.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Ragil, and good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much and congratulations to the committee. And I would like to say that the Department of Sociology is part of the organizer of this symposium. So this panel is supported actually by the Department of Sociology. Yes, following to the very interesting discussion presentation by Mas Siddiq at the beginning and then Mas Fali, I would like to share my ideas about our new social words in the digital sense. We call it the term that we use in the term of reference of the symposium is the term of the digital and everything's about the digitals. And this morning, as Mr. Ragil said before, I tried to do some theoretical reflection rooted actually from the tradition in sociology, from the classical discussion. And one of that broad discussion on the classical theories in sociology and social science is about the solidarity. So today, or in this great chance, I will use a few minutes to share ideas how solidarity has changed in our society. Some of this presentation is related and can be a continuation of my yesterday presentation. Maybe some of you didn't join first day of conference or symposium. Yesterday, I presented my presentation on the freeze mobility that as a consequence of increasing distance society. So today, I will continue the yesterday presentation on how the distance society cope with the risk. And that we talk about then virtual solidarity. There will be three parts of my presentation. First, about the background, how the new social and the distance society affected our today lives, and then brief discussion on the risk, living in risk or with risk and uncertainties, and then I will further discuss about virtual solidarity. I think what Mas Siddiq has presented and also Mas Fali really bring to us many evidence that we are living in a new social. The social world we are having today is very different to the one imagined by the early thinkers of industrial societies and advanced capitalism. I will show, I think, in my presentation some differences, but in general, we might say that at the micro level, and the meso level, and the macro and meso and micro level, we can see all that changes. Yeah, I think Mas Siddiq and Mas Fali already give us many evidence of the changes. And as a social, as a scholars or an individual who have an interest on social thought or on social theories, we might see, for instance, the shift, the change from human to human engagement to the increasingly transformation of human and gadgets engagement. Human behavior has oriented mostly on and determined by digital devices and even virtual self-being. Indeed, I think for the young generation, the presence of other human is often seen as an interferer or even threat to their personal individual life. So this is our current society. And of course, if we look back to the theories in social science, especially in my field, sociology, we can see many social thinkers, what we call as a classic thinkers. And one of them we'll find Emil Durkheim. The other thinkers is Marx. Some people I think we might also discuss a lot about how the theories of Marx or Marxism or neo-Marxism can be used to understand our current society, and also Max Weber. But in this occasion, in this very great chance, I will only discuss on the issue or topic of social solidarity, and started from the theories of Emil Durkheim on what he called as mechanic solidarity and organic solidarity. If we talk about solidarity, now we can see the development of the theories, conceptualization of solidarity, from the classical to the modern conceptualization of solidarity. For instance, Gösta Esping Andersen wrote a book on the 3 words of welfare capitalism. He mentioned about how people in the Western Europe and Northern America has developed their form of solidarity, then called by Esping Andersen as the welfare regime in the well-developed capitalist countries. But we also might be familiar with the works by Robert Putnam on Bowling Alone, how he said about the shift in the American society from the limited neighborhood solidarity to the institutionalized solidarity managed by the state and the market. Then we can see how then the conceptualization of solidarity developed from the very early mechanic to the organic solidarity to many discussion on this. We will find about the conceptualization of, for instance, community kinship and social assistances. And then we come to the discussion on the insurance, on the contribution based on the earnings, for instance. And if we look at our current society, we'll see how the internet has been deeply penetrate our society. We can see the increase more than 10% in a year. So from 2017 to 18, the increase of the internet users is more than 10%. So this indicate that our society has already very engaged and very already live with the internet and the digital things. And of course, I think the advancements of technology is not always bringing us to the happiness. The advancement of technology is not always making us living in more happier society. We still face many risks, even in the very advanced technology and digitalization. And yesterday I discussed about this. Despite to the technological advancement, the increasing, people might say that we are living in the global village. But in fact, we have that situation where we are now in a very increased distance society. Yesterday, I discussed quite detail about 2 pandemics that might bring us to the situation where we are getting more distance to the other people. First, the pandemic of racism. We can see everywhere, actually. This is not only the phenomenon in the US or in Europe, even in our society in Indonesia, we can see the pandemic of somehow racism. People then building strong walls with the others. And of course, the others pandemic we still facing now is the pandemic of COVID-19. This is 2 evidence that bring us to live in very distant society. Situation where in the past, I think, many social thinkers believe that we are already living in no distance. This is one book written by the Frances Carcos, titled "The Death of Distance." Presume that we are no longer living with distance. Everything's already, with the communication revolution, we are closer to each other, no more a distance. But I think in 2020, we see, for instance, the case of the George Floyd in America, and then cross the continent to Asia, Australia, and then how people then having very clear distance with others. And of course, the other case with the COVID-19, we even have that social distance enforced by the policy. So there is a policy by the government to enforce every people to always keep distance. So I think we need to consider our situation where we are no longer in that depth of the distance. Since we still have the risk, so how we cope with the risk in a situation where we are living in a distance? And this is actually I took from my research with some colleagues here. There is Habib, Irma, and Dila, my colleague, who then do research on kitabisa.com. Actually, we observe, focus mainly on kitabisa.com, how people contribute and share donation to help others. So looking at the kitabisa.com, for instance, how the crowdfunding can collect money. Let's say this is my observation in 3 weeks in the early March, when the government publicly announced that we have the coronavirus. Within 3 weeks, not less than 100 campaign on kitabisa.com that has successfully collected fund more than 80 billion rupiah. So I think this is a great achievement. And also this is almarhum Dedi Kempot, yeah. Within only a few hours, he do a concert in his own home virtually. He could then collect more than 7.5 billion money. So all this, I mean, yes, we are living in a distance where we are not easily chat, connect, and make a physical communication, and even the racism also have developed the identity barrier among us. But we can still see such phenomenon where people still eager. People can still have could still contribute to help others. And in our society, I think in the past, in for the elder generation, they are familiar with design, with this card. Yeah, in the old house, we can see this sticker that people who ask for the donation, they should report to the local authorities and get the permission. But with the Dedi Kempot, with the kitabisa.com, with the virtual crowdfunding, this permission, the authority or the permission from the local authorities no longer applicable. People don't need to have that permission. So starting from this, then I think about the shift from what Durkheim said, from the mechanic to organic solidarity. Then I think we might have a new form of solidarity. What is the element of the new form of solidarity, which in this presentation I call it the virtual solidarity? What is the element of virtual solidarity? There are at least 3 elements that might construct the so-called virtual solidarity. First, in the virtual solidarity, text and discourse can be spoken, unspoken, image, or videos. Anything about this, about the text, spoken, unspoken, images, videos, color, or even the soundtrack, the song, is very powerful. I call it the representational text or discourse, where the text and the discourse has very strong impact and that send a strong message to the audience. And that the first element of the virtual solidarity is the text and the discourse that represent something. And the second element of virtual solidarity is the fluid structure. Uh, our society is no longer living in that very solid hierarchical society, but we have, for instance, now increasing more popular terms used by many scholars is the power of followership. I think this is a nice topic to discuss. And Mas Pali also discussed about influencers, the role of the influencer, and the weakening system of hierarchy. And the third is debureaucratization of Weberian approach. Still, there is a panoptic function. Still, in our digital society, still there the panoptic function from, for instance, the artificial intelligence or from push notification, macro targeting, and such panoptic function. But it is not in the form of top hierarchy controlling the lower hierarchy as in the Weberian bureaucracy. So this is what I mean by representational text or discourse. If you look at, for instance, on the kitabisa.com, it is not only about campaign, but campaign that followed or coming together with the image, with the text, with the videos, with the color. And in the other campaign, there is a song, yeah, particular song that followed the moving of the images. So this is not only the text, but I think text that has very strong power to send message to the audience. And the second is the fluid social structure, which I mean, we are moving from that solid hierarchy to that's what I think in the term of Mas Pali before is the influence of the influencers. The influencer is in the central, and he or she can then influence broad people, not in the way of the hierarchy system, but in this like a nodal, nodal point where then he become the center and then get a connection with the others in less hierarchical term. And the bureaucratization of Weberian's system, yeah. In the, for instance, virtual solidarity, the report, the what we call it as an accountability is no longer with the report, with the paper. No, they can just post the photos with the beneficiaries, and then that's only the way they do the what we mean by as an accountability. So there is a increasing debureaucratization. No longer that's a procedural, hierarchical in the way they collect and also do a report on the funding or the donation. And from this, we can see that the donors and the donees of kitabisa.com are crossing the border, not only within particular nation state, but we see on the website of kitabisa.com that the donors and the donees of kitabisa.com is crossing the continent to Asia, Europe, Africa, and North America, South America. So they can cross the border without that, authorities or any permission from that particular government. So then we can see the institutional transformation. Modern virtual solidarity is kind of a transformation from the previous form of modern solidarity. If in the modern solidarity, it is based on the principle of legal rational bureaucracy, written and hierarchical authority, in the virtual solidarity, it is paperless, automation, less hierarchical decision, collaborative, including with fintechs. In terms of transparency and accountability, it is real. No no need to write a report on this. It is real time. We can see in a second who donate with how much amount of money. It is in real time. So automation, real time transparency, and borderless. In the past, I think this is a discussion in theories of public policy, impersonal. But I think if you look at the virtual solidarity, they move not only the issue of impersonal, but then they build very personal empathy, strong personal empathy through narrative in text and influencing image and video, influential image and video, and of course role of influencer. So there is kind of personal empathy which different to the perspective of impersonality in the previous form of solidarity. So this is my last slide to see the shift from the traditional to the modern to the digital. If in the traditional, the actors is community, in the modern solidarity, state, market, and community, as being Anderson call it as the social democrat, conservative, and then liberal welfare regime based on the state, market, and community. But in the digital, we can see the actors is collaborative. No longer clear cut between the state, the market, and community, but all the actors can collaborate together. Geographical boundaries, borderless in the digital era. In the past, as we can learn from Robert Putnam, it is based on the government authorities, nation state, state territory, but now it is borderless. And in terms of the form of solidarity, then it is moved from mechanical to organic, then to the virtual. In the term of social relation, we are living in intense but mediated. Intense communication, intense engagement, but the intensity of that connectivity is mediated through many social media and many, I think, digital technology. Okay, Mas Ragil, that's what I can share in this event, and thank you very much. I'm happy and love to discuss further with the audience. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan, thank you so much for the theoretical and the reflection by based on the observation and readings and the process of rethinking what we've been dealing with these days with the coming of digital industry, especially the point of new social, the interaction between human and gadget. You say it, human and gadget engagement. It's really interesting, and there has been a quite new concept that connected with your theoretical engagement. And the three characters of the transformation through representational text, fluid social structure, and the bureaucratization. Thank you very much, Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan. And thank you very much, Mr. Siddiq, Dr. Falikul Isbah, and Dr. Hakimul Ikhwan. Now we are ready to discuss. There are already comments and questions in the group chat. The first is, I think this is from an old friend of Mr. Hakim, Mr. Anton Novenanto has written his comments and has also written one question for Mr. Hakim. I would read the comment from Mr. Anton Novenanto, and he'd like to hear the feedback from this comment from the three panelists. So after I read the comment, I want to give you the panelists their time to comment on the comments of Mr. Anton Novenanto. Mr. Novenanto wrote, I still haven't found any explanation of how the logic of money or profit making in the digital economy Based on the presentation, the profit or money making is still in the logic of conventional capitalism. What we miss from the presentations is the explanation on the electronic data transactions and how this affect economy. The more hooks or misinformation or any information is distributed through the internet, the more the internet business players make more money or profit. So digital economy again grows not based on the truth or false information, but more on how big is data being distributed. Sociologists tend to do analysis more on production and consumption, but less on distribution. I would really like to hear panelists' take on Mr. Anton's comments. Maybe we can start from Mr. Sidik Harimatia. Mr. Sidik, what's your take on Mr. Anton's comment?
Okay.
Bung Rakil, sorry.
Yep.
I think that question is for me.
For
yeah.
you?
Yeah. That
Oh.
question is for me, I think. Yeah,
I will
because
add
this is
a few.
I have a question to all, but
feedback.
especially first
Yeah,
and
it's okay.
second
I will
person.
add a few feedback because it's
Oh,
related
okay.
to
Okay,
information.
we can start with Mr. Sidik.
Okay, let me start first, I think.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
start first. And then the next question is from Mbak Dewi KS. That's more relevant to Bung Sidik. Okay, let me talk briefly. Thank you, Pak Anton, for the question and comment. If I try to paraphrase your point in the chat room, probably I can grab two issues. Number one is about the logic of money or profit making in digital economy, and number two is your point about the sociologists are more busy with production and consumption, but neglect the distribution. Okay, let me start with the first point about the logic of profit making. As I mentioned in my earlier presentation, that I divided the digital transformation in economic sector into 5 types. Yeah. So I would like to argue that different types of economic sector has different ways of profit making. Yeah. For example, in the location-based sharing economy, yeah, the profit making is done by sharing the profit with the workers. For example, in the case of Gojek, Gojek driver, the Gojek company share the profit with the Gojek, but they do not share the risk to the workers. So the risk is on the workers only. The company basically, for example, the risk of traffic accident, the risk of being being intimidated or abused by the consumers. That's the workers only who got the risk. Yeah. But if the consumer pay something, the company get the share. Yeah. And another case, different case, is in creative content. For example, in YouTubers, what they earn, in terms of profit making is the number of viewers and subscribers. The number of viewers and subscribers can be monetized. I don't know whether this is correct English or not, but in Indonesia, this is very popular word, demonetisasi. The number of viewers and subscribers can be monetized into the price of Google Ads appear on the online platform. For example, on YouTube. So this is the way of profit making in creative contents, and also in in digital marketing, like the case of person who sells something on Instagram or Facebook. That's the profit making is different way. And the second point about your point that in the sociology concern more on production and consumption aspect, but neglect the distribution. Yes, I do agree with your point. Yeah, in the past, sociology did something like that, like the concept of Fordism and post-Fordism that has a very strong emphasis on production aspect. Yeah, and then emotional and affective labor in the service sector. Yeah, probably this is something emphasize on the relation between service provider or worker with consumer. But what about distribution? I do agree that from starting from now and in the future, distribution aspect is worth to address. Yeah, we need new perspective to develop in to analyze, yeah, to analyze the distribution aspect as the digitalization of economy has changed the distribution of goods and services, and probably also the issue of what's that, global supply chain. Yeah, in labor studies, global supply chain is very key. What's a keyword in terms of analyzing the structure of exploitation? Yeah, but with the distribution of job through what I call what web-based micro tasks, probably it change the global supply chain as well as changing the form of exploitation, the form of injustice, and etc. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Falik, for responding to Mr. Anton's comment. And we already got second question from Dewi KS. She's from Salatiga. The question is for Mr. Siddiq. She says that the use of social network is very impressive. And the question is, how did Bapak Siddiq reduce the data, and finally the data is valid for analysis? But before Mr. Siddiq answer the questions, I believe that Mr. Anton also want to hear some of your take on his comments, because he write that I have question to all, but especially the first and second presenters. And also since the comment also mentioned the hoax information, maybe you wanna say something about it first before answering the question about the methodological stuff on your research. Please, Mr. Siddiq, time yours.
Yeah, okay. I will give a short response to Bapak Anton. Yeah, I agree that the business of fake news is about making money and making profit. And yeah, in my paper, the limitation of my paper is I focus on the content. So mapping out the content to answer the question about what and what are the content, what are the implications related to this pandemic crisis. So of course, if we talk about misinformations, beyond the content, there are many, let's say, infrastructural aspects. For example, how this fake news can be monetized by the logic of a ranking or link, how it can be number one on Google, for example, or how it can be viral, and behind that there is a business of making money. But my paper didn't go further to that infrastructural aspect. So I focus on the contents. But overall, I agree with this the comment for Bapak Anton. And the second comment, a question, yeah, from Dewi Kartika from UKSW Salatiga. I think it's a very important question regarding the methodology in digital research. Yeah, by digital research, I mean social research using digital data as the main data source. The question about data validity and how to reduce it. In my research, first I'm using the I define the platform. So if you want to do a digital research, you have to make sure and make it clear what are the platform that you are using. Either it could be website or social media, and which social media you use. So first you have to define the sites, the research sites on the platform. And then here I'm using the technique of filtering. So it's similar with sampling technique in quantitative research, but different, but works with the same logic. So you can filter what you are going to include as a data. So for example, I'm using the sites of turnbackhooks.id, and then you can filter what content by entering the keyword on that site. Usually you can find the box search on the corner of the sites, and you can type the keyword or the hashtag or something like that, and then you will find how many articles or how many contents. And after that, of course, you have to clean the data by reading the content one by one. You have to read. If you apply a content analysis, you have to read it one by one, which data you include. Since I'm interested in the case of Indonesia, so I only include the content that are written in Bahasa Indonesia. Those are all filtering technique, and you should state this technique clearly in the methodology section or method sections. So the most important thing is you have to be as transparent as possible in explaining the research process, and it makes your data can be used and valid for research. Of course, you will have. Of course, the platform that I'm using, Turnbackhooks, it is moderated. There are management working behind the sites, and there are community who supply the fake information. There is management moderate which content should be published. So what platform determines the what data you will get. Other sites, there are many fact checker sites in Indonesia. For example, even Ministry of Communication and Information, they have their own site to debunk or to clarify fake news. If you are using that site as a data source, of course, people will know that these are managed by government, and Turnbackhooks managed by, for example, community or every platform is, there is a team or management that are working that. So digital research is really determined by the use of platform of technology, because it relates to what data you will get, you will include for research. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Siddiq, stay there. I think it will be good for you to directly answer the next question because it still has some connection with the previous questions. From Anggi Deno Sukmawati, she writes, do you have particular reason on mining to specific set of time for your data? Can you elaborate more on the correlation on those misinformation to the real life? Like from your data, we found that those misinformation directly or indirectly connected to the feeling of anxiety, panic, etc. But are those feeling of anxiety and panic then related to the panic buying behavior, or maybe triggering some other behavior? Thanks in advance. Please, Mr. Siddiq.
Okay, the question about this specific time period of the data. So when I'm searching about the misinformation content on the sites, I'm using a filtering by keyword, and found that the first content are published in the beginning of January. So I try to collect from the start, the first content until March, because the beginning of March is when our government officially announced the first two cases. So before and after announcements, and I consider that as the crucial path of hoax circulation on media. And this content, of course, what I've presented is a content from a helicopter view. So you look at the general view of what it is all about. What are the themes? If you like to focus on the discourse or its content, so you have to go to the narrative, to the text. It can be a sentences, or it can be a video, because there are many forms of misinformation. It can be a caption or a poster, for example. Then you will find that these are related to what is happening in society. For example, on my first slide, hoax about COVID prevention. We found the picture of King of Yogyakarta there, as if he stated that people should cook a 7 color of vegetables to prevent. And you will find easily the media report that people are really cook that in Bantul, for example, in Saiwan, I don't know, but media report have that evidence, and you can use that these contents have impact in their real life. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ragil. That's my response.
Okay, Mr. Siddiq, thank you so much. Yeah, I think
Welcome.
the behavioral thing is needed further research based maybe on your findings that you've been trying to analyze from your data mining. But yeah, I agree with you that the behavioral thing, the performativity of the people that has something to do with the data need more assessment. Thank you, Mr. Siddiq. Aside from a question for Mr. Siddiq and Dr. Falik, Bapak Anton also has questions for Mr. Hakim. He writes, for the last presenter, Mr. Hakim, Arnold Fryanov. Mr. Hakim, I'm very interested in your ideas on new connectedness, but again, if we read again Simmel's writings on alienation, which is different from Marx's concept on the same term, and cosmopolitanism, we will find how technology, for example, money, has created new dis/connectedness. What do you think of this new disconnectedness triggered by digital economy or technology? Please, Mr. Hakim.
Okay, yeah, thank you, my friend Anton Novenanto, for the question. I agree with you that we need to think about the new form of disconnectedness. Yeah, and yes, in my discussion, I try to develop an argument how people might connect with one another, and that the attempt, or my thinking to deal with the situation of the what I call it, the disconnected, or what's the title of my presentation was that the to keep with the distanced society. So Mas Anton Novenanto, your question is, I think, very interesting to be further discussed, and I haven't mentioned about, for instance, the conceptualization about the filter bubbles, for instance. How actually we are in doing surfing, we feel that we are free in Googling or searching for any information, But in fact, we are not. We are already been divided and segregated culturally, ideologically in that bubble. So filter bubble, if we look at, one day I have problem with my mobile, and that I borrow my daughter's mobile, and I really didn't feel comfortable to use that mobile phone, because everything I use, for instance, when I search any information on Google and I watch YouTube, any social media, I use in that handphone, that's all belong to the preferences of my daughter. So so I don't feel that I really belong to that device, the gadget. Yeah. And how then, that's an evidence that how we then already been disconnected, yeah, through the algorithm, what we call as the filter bubble. So that I think new forms of disconnectedness, Mas Anton Novenanto, Mas Nino, yeah, I used to call him Mas Nino. So from the technology, we already been disconnected. We might feel that we are free on internet. In fact, not. We already been in that bubble, culturally and ideologically. And even one evidence or example also in our practical life, Mas Nino, uh, what we see on uh, the Twitter users, there is a term, tweets do your magic. Yeah. For instance, someone inform or tweet on the Twitter saying that there is a very old man selling in front of, let's say, Indomaret. And then this tweet then can mobilize people from all corner of that city or even outside that city to go to the spot and buying things sold by that very old man, for instance. And that's happened on Twitter from by the tweet "Do Your Magic." But if you look at in our real life, I'm just imagine that when people move or go out from their home to the spot, when he commit to buy things from that old man, actually on the way to that spot, he might find many other sellers, many other weak, old, uh, disadvantaged people economically that he or she might help. But because of that, uh, engagement online through the, for instance, the application of Twitter, then people didn't consider the way or everything on the way to the spot. Yeah, he only tried to go as fast as possible to get to the spot and not consider anything. Might be, I believe that they there are many people around them very close to the home they live in that need their help or can do such decision to buy or to help someone. So Mas Nino, I think this is also another form of disconnectedness. So I would say that in terms of the technology, we already been segregated, we already been disconnected by the, for instance, the filter bubbles. But also, in the practical life, we have that orientation to be acknowledged, to what I say as self-being on the internet. Why we go to the spot to buy things from the old man? Because of that, online existences, to say to other people, I already got there. I buy the bananas, I buy the food, I buy the whatever, the crackers sold by the old man. So that's the purpose or the orientation, the motive behind the behaviors of the onliners. So yes, Mas Nino, I agree with you that we are in that situation of disconnectedness, and we are dealing with the disconnectedness and virtual solidarity that I already presented before is one forms of seeing another positive way of dealing with the risk amid situation of this potentially disconnectedness. Okay, Mas Ragil, I think that might respond to the questions by my friends, Nino, yeah?
Dr. Rakim, thank you so much for uh, making it clear that we still have this segregation, the disconnectedness that happen not only in the online field, but also offline. Like maybe we can say relatively before the coming of the digital industry, but now these two are colliding and create something new social that you said about the human and gadget engagement. Okay, we still, Mr. Anton seems has not been satisfied by Dr. Falik's and Mr. Siddiq's take on his comment. You want to say something, Dr. Falik?
Yep, yep. Okay, sorry. Thank you again, Mas Anton. This is very nice discussion actually. And yeah, transmission or distribution of data, does it can generate profit? Technically, this is a question beyond my expertise, but we can assume that, for example, in the past, in the issue of data trading related to credit cards, yeah, probably we can make an analogy based on our experience with data trading related to credit cards. That our data can be sold across bank, across insurance companies, across different kind of companies with who are interested in promoting their products to us. Yeah, but in the case of recent digital companies such as Gojek, yeah, I can't say precisely whether our data, yeah, for example, in Indonesia we have, I think, 50 million people who downloaded Gojek apps on their mobile phone. Yeah, more than 50 million. Yeah, so do Gojek can take profit with this number of downloaders or not? That's beyond my expertise. Yeah, but what I understand is that the number of downloader, the number of active user can be monetized to the potential investor. Yeah, for example, if we are we call startup, yeah, we have a startup application, startup, yeah, startup apps, yeah, and we need a potential investor to invest to our to our apps, yeah. This thing called scale up the business, yeah. So one of the element that we present in front of the potential investor is the number of downloaders and the number of active users. So in the past, we heard something about capital burning. Yeah, Gojek and Grab can offer the riding service in very low price. Yeah, it's almost irrational. For example, 5 kilometers ride only 5,000 rupiah. Yeah, that's irrational. How much money the riders or the driver earn? I asked the rider, "Pak, how much do you get from this service?" He said to me, "I think 10,000, but I pay you only 5,000. How can it?" He explained to me that the company cover the gap, yeah, from 5,000 to 5,000. So it's kind in Indonesian we call nomboi. Yeah, that's we call capital burning. Yeah, from where the money for capital burning, the money is coming from investor. How can the investor have a trust to put the money in such a, because they believe that the business will soon penetrate the market. Yeah, when the market get used to do the services, yeah, they can do everything, and they can normalize the price, and then they can earn the profit. That's what I understand from the mode or the model, whether our data as consumer can be used as profit making. Thank you, Pak Anton.
Dr. Falik, thank you so much for the elaboration. Mr. Anton Skorishuti has also been my questions for quite so long about the profit making and this stuff, because I've heard a lot that all this kind of stuff, startup hasn't been able to making money yet, but they're still going. But anyway, it's another complexity that we have to dig into deeper after this forum. And there are still, we have 5 minutes and 2 questions left for Mr. Siddiq and Dr. Hakim Ulkwan. I know that both of you have written some, but you want to elaborate it in maybe 90 seconds. Mr. Siddiq first, and then Mr. Hakim, and then we can write it up, this discussion. Mr. Siddiq,
90
please.
seconds. Yeah, okay.
90 seconds.
Okay, regarding the question of data capitalism, it's beyond the scope of my presentation here, but principally, I agree that it's a part of our digital environment. You know, making money or making profit from data. By data, I mean not only online information, but also online disinformations, and that's why the infrastructure of misinformation is very uncanny, if I can say that, because it has to do with how you increase your ranking on, let's say, Google or other social media platform. It's about the metrifications and what is it? Yeah, metrification of attention and monetization. So whatever you are logging on the internet and you are posting, it becomes data that can be capitalized by the owner or the owner of the platforms. So regarding misinformation, where you, for example, find the circulation of information, and this, of course, become a benefit for those who are instrumentalize or making profit of the content. Thank you, Mr. Anton and Ragil.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Siddiq. Dr. Hakim Ulkwan, maybe 90 seconds to elaborate a little bit on this meme thing.
Okay, yeah, but Anggi, I already wrote my answer actually. Yes, like and share is part of that connection, how people engage and try to engage and involve in anything. It can be involvement with the message, with the substance in the message, or also engagement with the messengers. So I think like and share is part of that this connection, connectedness, and sense of connection. Yeah. 2 seconds to respond to add some point with Nino. Yeah. Asking Mas Pali the question. I think in our current society, what we call as money and economy and capital is no longer as conceived by social thinkers before. Influencer, they might not have that money, yeah, but they have that capital. And I think the production in terms of economic production is no longer about calculation in money in the conventional way. Yeah, you can be very viral with doing some things very silly, for instance, and then with your virality, you can get the capital in what we call as capital in the Marxist theories of the doing production with nothing with money, but then he can produce some things online with some things called as the followers. So followers can be capitalized as capital for the production and making money in very unconventional way. I think that's my response, Mas Ragil.
Okay,
Mas
thank
Ragil,
you.
another question on the comment.
Yeah, but I don't think we can take it. But maybe Ibu or Mbak Ani Yuniarti, maybe she can grab your email, or is it for you, right? Yeah,
30
for Pak
seconds, I
Sidek.
can explain very quickly.
Oh dear, it's only
Oh,
I already
Cannot?
get
Okay.
a message from the
Okay.
from
Okay.
yeah, from the
But
conference.
yeah, Mbak Ani, we can
Yeah,
send,
yeah.
you can send me
Yeah.
email. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Siddiq, please send your email to maybe to the people in conference so they can share it. Okay, Mr. Siddiq, Harimatya, Dr. Falikul Isbat, Dr. Hakimul Ikman, very interesting discussion and thought-provoking and very triggering. And thanks for also the participant who asked questions, especially Mr. Anton, who trigger quite a long discussion this afternoon. I think I'm gonna wrap it up in like short points. First, speaking of the new map and opportunities of social science, theoretically speaking, we can and we still have the opportunities to develop frameworks, to develop analytical frame to contribute into the debate, into the development of knowledge that can further improve our life, that can improve our strategy to deal with the transformation, with the collision between digital crisis, the digital world, digital transformation, and the global crisis. And second, the complexity of digital industry regarding the connectedness, the disconnectedness that we have been facing this day still need a more assessment, and very interesting to be addressed in the other forums, and also to be researched and to be investigated more deeper. And the third point, the political economy of information and knowledge is waiting for us, and is waited to be debunked and to be discussed in a critical manner. Of course, to reach the goals of emancipation, participation, and to maybe reduce the digital divide that's been dominating our discussion if you talk about digital world and the political economy of digital transformation. That third point then marks the end of the discussion. Thank you again, Mr. Siddiq Harimatya, Dr. Falik, and Dr. Hakimul Ikan for the presentation, for the amazing, thought-provoking, triggering presentation. I believe we can something, and we can pick some knowledge out of it and from these tables. And hopefully this discussion will continue on thousands of tables out there and can be a departure point for us to live up our optimism in dealing with this difficult period of human history. Thank you again, Center for Southeast Asian Social Studies, for organizing this symposium, and all of the organizing partners, including the Department of Sociology, that make this afternoon discussion happen. And also thank you also for the participants who are staying until the finish line. I would like to invite you to attend the other interesting parallel session in this conference. I wish you good health, and I wish you could have a good lunch this afternoon, and looking forward to seeing you, discussing things with you in other occasion. Selamat siang, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Stay